what I'd like to explore today is receiving and the feminine, and giving and the masculine, and how these qualities have been shaped from our childhoods by our conditioning of what it is to be a man and a woman, and hopefully to shed some light on how at least I view them and might be of some value to you. At least one hopes. Because I've noticed within myself there is a blockages around both of those things, the receiving and of the giving. And the reason why I feel this is important is because for anyone who's read spiritual text, there's a common theme, which is that giving is more important than receiving. When one loves, one doesn't think about being loved. Yet it seems to me, at least I've never heard someone talk about it, that it's of no value if you're loving, if the whole world can't receive it. So it seems to be important, from where I'm stood or sat, to explore why we can't receive love, why we can't receive compliments, why we can't receive gifts, why we can't receive affection. And I think it's because receiving has in the past and for centuries been at the expense of something. We maybe have to trade our sense of self. We maybe have to act a certain way when we receive something that we are not completely heartfeltly resonant with. So then we put on an act, we put on a mask, like, I love this gift, even if really we don't. And it creates this whole persona of how we ought to act when we receive. And that can be for anything, as I've said, a gift, a compliment. And so then we fear receiving. And the receiving relates and is in sync with the feminine, because the feminine is all about receiving, just receiving the warmth of the sun, or a nice meal, or a soft, affectionate touch. And if we can't receive, it doesn't matter how much we give, how much we do, how much action is taken, it's never going to land. So it seems that the feminine needs to be explored and completely been freed of any blockages, so that then the action can then land. Because when action is taken, the masculine is there. It feels frustrated if it can't be received or acknowledged or validated, because it tries its best. But if a person can't receive, it doesn't matter how loving you are. You can write love letters, you can write songs, you can give gifts. But if it doesn't land, there's no point. So we need to kind of get to the roots of why there is this fear of receiving. And I think that that's a very personal thing. Of course, there's similarities in all these things for each of us. Um, Maybe we received money from our parents, but we had to abide by their rules and their structures and agree with them and not challenge them and not be fully allowed to express ourselves, which is why many of us, when we grow up, we separate physically from our parents so we can have this space to cultivate our own sense of what we feel to be true in the world, particularly in the West. It's more normalized to do this. I think there's also guilt there. We feel unworthy of receiving. It touches on the wound within ourselves that says, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I'm cast aside by life, I've been forgotten. Maybe you've been hurt in the past. Maybe you've received in the past and it's been used as a manipulation in order for you to do something, to behave. I've given you this, so you must do this. And to someone that starts to resonate sensitively and truthfully within themselves, it feels very off, off tilt, untrue. And so naturally we resist receiving. We're like, I don't want anything. I don't want any help. I don't want your gifts. I don't want your compliments, because we don't want these unspoken obligations, you know? And this also happens here in the streets with people you don't know in India, where they say, "Oh, I'll put this dot on your head," and they said 1,000 rupees, and you think, "Well, I haven't agreed to this." So then naturally we say no entirely to the whole thing. We push away this whole thing because we don't know the contract. We don't know the the foundations. I think we all wish to receive without feeling guilt, without feeling as though we owe the other person this thing. Unless, of course, there's contracts, right? If we have a job, we receive money at the expense or the transaction of this action or this doing or this being, whatever. And it's spoken and written down so we're clear about where the regulations are, the boundaries are, which is, of course, important. But usually, work isn't about love and it isn't about intimate connection, although, of course, it can be, but it isn't yet. So, in our relationships, it seems to be important to be honest about where we're scared of receiving and as a result, scared of asking for help. Because sometimes we want to receive just for the love of receiving, the love of, oh, friends helping me, and they're not asking anything. It's like, no, I don't, you don't need to give me anything. I just want to give you freely, just unconditional, without exception. And when we do receive from a place where there is boundaries and there is something we wish in return, to have that stated to us clearly so we know, and so we can say wholeheartedly, yes, I agree, that seems like a fair exchange. So everyone's happy. That seems important, seems necessary, and then it can be forgotten about. We move on from that. And how does this all relate to the masculine, to the giving? Well, naturally, if we're giving to someone or something that doesn't acknowledge it or validate it, not that we necessarily need those things, but over time, inward frustrations and feeling unseen arises. And so naturally, the giving is cut off. We stop giving to people, homeless people. We stop giving to our friends because it just isn't received with the love in which we maybe feel toward it. We maybe do things actually in our hearts because there is a condition. Maybe get a book for a friend for his birthday that I feel I've really put some thought into it. Not that we explain it to this person because we don't explain why we give to charity, right? And I ask him a year later, and I say, "Have you read the book?" And he says no, and I think, oh God, I feel hurt. He's not seen me because maybe I'm identified with the act of giving this gift, and I feel hurt. I feel unseen. He doesn't care about me. They don't care about me. It's not been received. I've not heard the, oh my God, I'm so happy. It's the best gift ever. I've received it. So there's this play of us really in giving. Maybe we actually do want something back. If we say it's free, financially perhaps, we think, God, at least we want them to acknowledge it. I really want you to look at me to see actually that I have done something. This is a really nice gift, and we want it to be acknowledged. Right now, I don't feel there's much more to say about the masculine. I'll go back to it if it feels to. But something arose then in how this relates to how we act in the world from the feminine and the masculine, in the pushing and the accepting of situations, and talking from the perspective of being or experiencing a human male. My experience growing up was a mother who was very passive in her femininity, and a father who was very assertive in his masculinity. And I now see how these two seeming polarities have like inwardly become how I've related to the world, in that my femininity, which I seem to be more comfortable in abiding in and receiving, is a bit passive, a bit just a bit flowy, a bit kind of the universe will figure it out. And the masculine, if I want something to get done, I need to be very strong. I'll get it at any cost. And as a result, I have steered away from my masculinity. Of course, there's also elements of the larger, you know, population feeling very angry towards men. There's these terms of, toxic masculinity. Um, we're not allowed to express anger really as men or women. So we learn to kind of curb ourselves. We cut this masculine part of ourselves off for men, and maybe we cut the feminine side of ourself off for women more so, generally speaking. Of course, some men can be very in their feminine energy and of women in their masculine. Of course, it's just a facade, really, the human form. It's just the form, really, that's female or male. So how do we integrate these elements? How do they really wish to flow and merge and dance freely with the right amount of energy towards each at any given moment of its course flowing all the time? There's a time for action and there's a time for inaction. I guess it's difficult because no one can tell you what the right dynamic is for you. Only you can know the truth about, maybe we're shying away. So for me, maybe I'm shying away from the masculine because I'm scared that if I'm assertive, I'm being unkind. Maybe when I'm in the masculine, the feminine feels very far away, and I don't know how to integrate the two. How to be like, no, this price is outrageous. This behavior is not something I accept, but doing it with love and care. and we're in the feminine, how do we receive completely without guilt, just for the pure love of I can accept this and really accept it, accept that no, I'll do this for you. Just please relax. And then we start to see that actually, and this is, I think, common for all of us, that we find it very hard to receive. I think the receiving seems to be of more importance to what I'm saying now, because in the past I've given and given and given. I've held space for people. I've listened to them. I've talked to them. But if these people aren't doing the inner work, there's never really receiving. There's a little, sometimes there's a crack, and we hear it, but for the most part, it's unheard, and so then we feel like we're wasting our time. Maybe it feels more okay if we're being paid for it. Say if we're a therapist, we think, oh, they're not listening, but at least I'm paid. But it's not holistic. Surely we wish to get the monetary value if we're charging for something, but also we want to genuinely help these people if we're being true. You know, it can't feel fulfilling to do something where it's never being received if we're also charging. We want there to be both. We want everything to align. We want the value we're giving to ourselves to align with the other person. We don't want them to think, gosh, they've undercharged me, or gosh, they've overcharged me. They wish think that's actually valued, and if not, to be with that, because we don't wish to cheat ourselves. If there's just the self, ourself, in different forms. If I am just charging you extortionate prices because you think that I know something more, or I can give you something, then it's not being true. I also think we need to move past this point of feeling like we need to give everything away for free. Um, I don't think we're at that point of evolution where we can do that, as a holistic kind of societal working within individual relationships and moments. We all do this with charity and, yeah, gift giving and writing letters, or making a piece of art for someone, etc. If we abide too much in just we think everything should be free, then we maybe begin to be a bit resentful that I'm giving away everything for free, and maybe accepting that I think I should be expecting things to be free for me. So it's interesting to just be with these energies of how much we value ourselves and how much we value the other and how much we think is a fair exchange, where we can look someone in the eye, breathe with them, and be like, no, I think this is valid. And if you don't want to pay it, that doesn't feel right for you. But you don't change your inner attunement unless it feels true and honest to do that, you know? Yeah, I think I've said enough now. I think I've repeated myself, but it felt important to share because it's been a big theme recently, this toing and froing of finding the balance between these things, and the balance for compromise and the balance for not compromising. It's all about the middle way. If we compromise too much, we feel small and neglected, and if we never compromise, we feel too big, and that is also not enjoyable once you kind of see the implications of that and how it affects others. So it's all a balance of the middle, and that's very individual to each and every one of us. So yeah, I hope that me talking about this is kind of enlightened something for you or shed a light on something. Um, yeah, and I hope the surrounding trees and energy have been calm for you. Uh, Hoping you're well wherever you are, and yeah, all my love and yeah, maybe that's enough. All my love. All right, ciao for now.